how worried should we be, and how long do you think it will take for this to be a law?
Okay. So when did you hear me?
I heard until the fact that it is a bill, but not the rest.
So do we need to start over?
Yeah, it's best to just start from the beginning, so I can just record this.
Okay, I'll start over. So the first thing I'll clarify is that the breaking news that has come, at least as far as the crypto community is concerned, that the Indian government wants to ban cryptocurrency, is not quite fully accurate, or there is some nuance to it, because the entire news stems from a committee report, and that committee report is only a suggestion by the committee to the government. So it is not the decision of the government as yet, and the committee report is also not binding on the government. So the background is that the government initially constituted a panel in April 2017 to look into the issues, the legal issues surrounding virtual currency. That committee reportedly submitted its report, which was considered and not made public ever. Thereafter, it was found appropriate by the government to constitute a second committee in November 2017 to propose specific actions on virtual currencies. Now, that second committee is the committee which has published its report. The report was published, or rather submitted, in February 2019, based on the date marked on the document, but it was only made public earlier this week. Mm-hmm. And the press release accompanying the report says that the government is going to consider the report along with various departments and then take a decision on the matter. So that makes it clear that this is not a decision of the government, it's only a suggestion by the committee.
Understood.
Now, the committee consisted of the Secretary of the Department of Economic Affairs, Ministry of Finance, two senior officials from SEBI and RBI, one each, and a secretary in the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. So those are the four members. There was no representation from the industry or from people with specific expertise in this technology. That is another potential criticism that could be associated with this report. Now, as far as what the report says, it's quite clearly against virtual currencies themselves, while it tries to be bullish on distributed ledger technologies. Now, in our view, it's difficult to separate virtual currencies and blockchain technology because virtual currencies are what give an incentive to participants on blockchain networks to verify the transaction. Without some form of token incentive, whether that we call a virtual currency a crypto asset or a cryptocurrency, it is difficult to incentivize a large network of decentralized participants to verify transactions of others. So one may as well go back to a centralized system like a bank or any other intermediary who charges fees in order to maintain a ledger. The only way that a large network of unknown parties are going to maintain a ledger, thereby making it decentralized, is that if they have some incentive.
Right.
And that incentive is given by a token. So that's basically the reason why we feel that the committee's distinction between the two may not quite be very sound.
Right.
So that can be possibly explored through public debate further.
All right.
Now, yeah, go ahead, Shiva.
So I think one common theme that I'm seeing, at least from some people that work in the policy circle, is why do you need a public cryptocurrency? It could always be a digital rupee that can be programmed and censored by the government. So the angle I have been thinking about is holding a private key a constitutional right, and could it be protected? Because if that is the case, then making tokens themselves illegal would not be something that's constitutional.
Yeah, so that's right. You can incentivize people through rupee token. There's no harm with that. But it also doesn't mean that there should be restriction on people using their own networks. Now, of course, because these may have an impact on monetary policy if people start using it in a large manner and in a significant way for transactions and buying and selling, those can be regulated, and there's no reason why they cannot act as any other asset that is regulated today. For example, gold, bullion, commodities are all valuable assets, and they're all regulated by the current regime.
Right.
So even if one has a rupee token, that does not mean that all other tokens should automatically be banned. Like you said, it's a constitutional matter where generally what the courts have said is that unless there is no less invasive measure that will be effective, it's only then that a prohibition will be justified. So the courts would generally look strictly upon a prohibition where the government is not considered a less invasive measure.
Right.
For example, in the Aadhaar case, the mandatory linking of Aadhaar with bank accounts and telephone numbers was struck down by the Supreme Court because it said that there's not been a proper study done, and a blanket move like that could not have been done when there are less invasive measures that could have been adopted.
Understood.
And more proportionate measures. So yes, it is a constitutional rights matter. But at the same time, I won't say that none of the concerns by the committee have any basis or anything like that. There are valid concerns associated with virtual currencies. The only thing we would say is that should be addressed by regulation and not an outright ban.
Understood. Yes. So I think
yeah, go ahead.
The big question for almost everyone I know right now that own digital assets of any sort is, what should they do? Are they criminals if a law like this passes? Are they required to sell all their digital assets? What would be the next step for them to stay out of trouble?
So as of now, one should obviously keep one eye on the progress of the draft bill. But as of now, it does not have any legal effect, so to speak. So one can continue to hold their crypto assets. If the draft bill's text is to be looked at, it does propose a transition mechanism where once the draft bill is introduced, there is a period given, I believe it's 90 days, where the central government will notify a mechanism where people can declare and dispose of their crypto assets.
Right.
How that is going to be done is a big question mark because obviously no one in India would be interested in buying the crypto assets if the possession is made criminalized. And then if it is to be sold abroad, the RBI circular comes in the way because it does not permit buying and selling through banking channels.
Right.
So the only way would be to relax the RBI circular during that transition period, which allows people to sell it for foreign exchange, or if the Indian government is going to buy back I shouldn't say buy back, is going to buy the crypto assets, then that's another potential route. Just like in demonetization, when you could turn in your legal tender and receive new ones. Although crypto assets are not legal tender, there is if the policy decision is there that the government would purchase the crypto assets from the people who are holding them, then that can also be implemented.
Indeed. All right. Okay. The other argument a lot of people have been saying is, what if they claim to have lost their keys or have been hacked? Would there be some form of, is that a reliable defense? Is that something the government would buy?
Well, the draft bill, the way it reads now, is quite sweeping. So it talks about anybody holding, possessing, or dealing in any manner, and a variety of other words are used in that connection. So that is one argument that would say it's of a very wide ambit and could apply regardless of the defense. But generally in criminal law, there's a principle that you have to have a criminal intent and then act on that intent.
Right.
So if somebody truly cannot access those funds in order to dispose of them, then if that person declares that, then that possibly may be a good enough defense. Because the draft bill speaks of declaring and disposing of the virtual currency.
Yes.
So if somebody declares and says it's impossible to dispose, I cannot possibly dispose even if I wanted to, because I've lost the key, then that could potentially be a defense.
All right. Is there a timeline you're seeing on this, given how closely you track the matter? Do you think there would be a clear paper by or law by the
It's actually very hard to predict the timeline. The reason being, the report was already submitted about 5 months ago now, and we haven't heard any particular outlook of the government on it one way or the other. Further, there's been a reshuffling of some of the bureaucratic officers, the senior level government officials. For example, the Secretary, Department of Economic Affairs, Mr. Subhash Chandra Garg, who chaired the committee, has now been transferred to another department.
Indeed.
So there's a new secretary who's coming. There's also a new finance minister. So it's a little difficult to say when any decision will be taken. But this issue is being brought up in Parliament at almost every session. So there is, and the industry is growing bigger. You have projects like Libra, which have gathered the attention of the US Parliament as well.
Right.
So I don't think the issue is going to go away, and I think the finance ministry will have to take a call on it one way or the other. But it's difficult to put a timeline on it. I think, but within the next year or two, they should probably take a decision one way or the other.
All right. Okay. Given your experience in the space, have you seen any similar privacy or cryptography related laws in the past? And is there any parallels you could draw with them?
Well, there was one called the Draft National Encryption Policy, which came out a couple of years ago, which proposed some measures that would give the government access to encrypted communications and various other measures related to encryption. There was a really strong pushback from the tech community on that because of how all-pervasive encryption is on the internet. and it would be difficult to kind of implement that policy, and probably not be in the interest of privacy as well. So that is an example where the draft policy was published and in fact immediately withdrawn by the government following the public pushback. So that policy is actually withdrawn and not brought up again.
All right. Okay. So it's, what you're seeing is something that's normal as a part of the government functioning.
I mean, I would say that some committee reports are acted on, some are rejected, and others are kind of there on the file, but are not really, there's no real decision taken on them for a long time. But this particular issue may be hard to ignore because of how big the industry is becoming and the interest from large corporates and internationally.
All right.
So I think we would have to take a decision one way or the other, and one hopes that it would be a decision in accordance with the Constitution.
All right. So what's the average citizen supposed to do? Is it just sit and observe, or is there some way they could help some of the lawmakers or you?
Yeah, honestly, one option is to sit and observe, but if someone wants to be more active and if they feel that the committee's report is somehow can be improved, or they have some feedback on the suggestions in that report, they can gather together and make their voices heard by the policy makers, because ultimately policy is influenced by the people.
Right.
And if the policy makers don't hear from people who are well informed, then they'll take a decision on what they have before them, which is the committee report. So people who are well informed should probably try and make themselves heard by the policy makers and present them with an alternative. Now, we as a law firm already presented a set of regulatory options to the government.
Right.
But others can make their points of view heard as well.
All right.
One good example of a public movement is the Save the Internet campaign,
Yes.
which we discussed offline, where when Facebook proposed its Free Basics program, and not just Facebook, but there was talk of such programs by other enterprises as well. TRAI started a consultation process on whether such programs can be allowed. It essentially touched upon the concept of net neutrality, and a lot of people got behind the net neutrality movement and joined the Save the Internet campaign, which was spearheaded by a few public-spirited individuals.
Right.
And so many letters and representations went to TRAI, and TRAI has considered them and ultimately come out with a decision in favor of net neutrality. Then there are various other examples even through change.org where the people have made their voices heard.
All right.
So that's one way that people can approach it.
All right, Jaideep. Thanks. That's quite a lot of insights. I'm trying to keep this brief, so we'll wrap it up here.
Okay, sure,
Yeah.
no problem.
Thanks a lot for your time. Thanks for coming on. I'll be in touch.
Okay, Joel.
All
No
right.
problem.
Take care. Bye.